Wait. Let's back up.
Oh, okay, we're gonna back up.
Let's get your bio first. Let's let the folks know who we're talking to here.
And it must have been about 7 years ago. Actually, I just came off of active duty, and I'd been in the Guard for a little bit at that point.
Is it praise or treats? Does it depend on the dog for like a reward?
Yep.
Okay.
And it depends on what kind of training you want to do, like clicker training, to hear that click and then receive a snack or something
Sure.
like that.
Okay.
I call them snacks in my house.
Snacks.
So my dogs know snacks. So.
Nice.
Yeah, snacks. I like it.
All right.
Well, welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is gonna be a great time.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
You got it.
Thanks for coming on.
So you're currently in the military.
I am, yes. I did 10 and a half years active duty Air Force, and then I ended up transitioning from active duty to Washington Air National Guard.
Okay.
So I've been doing that ever since. So I have a total of 18 years in at this point, 16 and a half, almost 17 years active time.
Nice. Are you enlisted or officer?
Enlisted.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are you, like a master chief or something?
I'm a Master Sergeant.
Master sergeant?
nice.
Wait. Oh yeah, chief is Navy, ain't it?
There's a hold on. I'm trying to remember my Air Force ranks. Is there a seat? There's a chief.
There is a chief, yeah.
What is it?
Chief Master Sergeant.
Chief Master Sergeant. Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's right. Okay.
So is that E7, E8?
So Master Sergeant E7.
Perfect. Good for you.
Awesome.
And you're
Thank
AGR
you.
right now.
Yep, I am. Yeah,
Heck
active
yeah.
guard.
Nice. Is that a Fairchild?
It is.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many total years are you at then?
So total, it'll be approaching 19 years.
Right.
So
You're there.
So that's with some of my Guard and Reserve time.
Yeah.
But my total active federal military service time is right around creeping up on 17 years in March.
Okay.
So 3 more for
Hit
that active duty. Yeah,
hit the 20. That, I guess that's kind of one of the things that I do like about like the military and the retirement in the military is that like in cop world or like first responder world, it's not like a hard number.
Right.
Like it can be, it just depends on
the state,
on
too.
the state and
Yep.
yeah, all sorts of things. Where the military is like, you hit 20, you can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you can stay longer and get some more benefits out of the deal or get like a little bit higher. But like if you want to be done at 20, you can be done at 20.
Right.
Yeah.
As a cop at 20, you're like,
I could have 10 or 15 more.
yeah, there could be a lot more.
I
So
know.
I do appreciate that about the military and their retirement.
Yeah, I do like it. So if I can stay for longer, I will. It's just in the Guard world, you can sit and potentially sit in a rank where you don't really want to do that because you want others below you to be able to move up too, right?
Yeah.
So there's that fine line between continuing to serve, and if you're not progressing, then maybe it's time that you do end up so that somebody below you can
Move up.
Can move
for
up,
sure.
yeah.
It keeps it from being stagnant. Somebody's sitting somewhere for too long for sure.
What's your job title there?
So I actually have a couple. So I've got what's called a drill status guardsman, traditional guardsman, AFSC, which is kind of basically what I signed the contract, with the Department of Defense for, and that is a flight and operations medical technician. But I also run the flight medicine operations for the flyers, pilots, booms. So I take care of all their medical, and I make sure that they're healthy to get into aircraft and fly.
Cool.
And then, so that's what I do, like on my drill status.
Yeah. Like flight
days.
physicals and all
Yeah.
that. Cool.
Exactly. And then I do, I work for my active guard job with the Homeland Response Force, which is an agency that's within the Washington National Guard. But we're not just secluded to Washington in general. We're more FEMA Region 10 for responses. And that includes anything from natural disasters to man-made events. In the event that, let's see, a bombing or something like that were to occur and they needed some type of CBRN support elements, our bread and butter is to operate in the CBRN environment. And that's
okay.
chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's such a big acronym. That's
So
a lot of
it
logos.
is. Oh, we got acronyms within acronyms.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It gets
Oh, my
weird
gosh.
quick.
I did my last 3 years in the Air Guard, and we were just talking about this on the last podcast we were on with Seth and Eric, and it is such it was such a culture shock for me going from the Army Guard to the Air Guard, even just like guard to guard.
Yeah.
But just like the dynamic, and I get it. Like the Air Guard was pretty sick.
Yeah.
I mean, like everybody was a fan. Again, the culture shock was crazy coming from like an infantry unit in the Guard. And I was in aviation in the Army too before I went to the infantry. But like there would be like, I'd show up to drill at the Air Guard base, and there'd be like a full bird colonel talking to some E1, and he'd be like, "Hey Jim, how was your weekend?" "Oh, it's great. It's great. How are the kids?" And you're like,
That's wild.
"What's going on here, dude? You're about to get chewed up." And then no one says anything. I'm like, "What the fuck?" It was weird because it happened when I was at Camp Ripley. I was in the Army at the time, and I was in the infantry, and we were at Camp Ripley, and I ran into my old company commander who, when I was a flight medic, he was our CO, and he was a lieutenant colonel now at the time when I saw him again, and I did my respects, right, when I did courtesies, but then we were just talking, and then I got back to the truck with these infantry dudes, and they're like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, what was that?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, it's my old company commander. Like, I deployed with him. Like," and they're like, "Oh, so we just talked to a lieutenant colonel with our hands?" And I was like,
funny.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
The aviation's just a whole different breed too in the Army, but it was cool. Like, I get it why people get into the Air Force, the Air Guard, even, and then make a full career out of it and enjoy it because they treat you guys really well.
Yeah, they will, and so, I joke too about this because I'm like, well, you go in the Air Force, you get treated more like an adult, right out the gate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So along those same lines, I feel like there's tiers though within like active duty, and then you get into the operations environment, and it tends to be a little bit more lax, but you work hard, play hard. Right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, and then you get into the Guard, and the Guard, I love the Guard. I loved active duty. I love the Guard, and they're different, but the same. With the active duty, coming off of active duty and going to the Guard, it was a little bit of a transition because it was maybe a little bit more, because you're getting folks that are coming from their civilian jobs, right?
Yep.
And then they're coming on for a few days, a month to drill, and then you put on this uniform, and then you're standards, customs, courtesies, all those things, getting back into that, and then you go back to the civilian world, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of time to adjust to all of that, but just because you take off the uniform and you go downtown and you do your civilian job doesn't necessarily mean you get rid of customs and courtesies, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
what I found in the Guard that I saw a lot was like our leadership in the Army Guard. Like, we'd have NCOs who outside of our drill weekend were at the bottom of the totem pole, and they'd get pushed around at work and like weren't in charge, and then they'd come to drill and they were in a position of authority, and that drove me up the wall, dude.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because they finally got to be in a position where they could order people around, and those are the ones that nobody liked. You're like, all right, okay.
So are you seeing
maybe outside the gate after drill?
I get you. Are you
get
seeing
down.
the recruiting numbers? Are people still coming in, like young kids out of high school and that, or is it kind of slowing down?
That's a tough topic, just because I think the recruiting numbers are there. I just think that it comes down to I think more so like a retention. I would like to focus a little bit more on retention personally, and that's retaining people who are already trained, right? And we spend money to get them to a certain point, and then last thing we want that asset to leave us, right?
Yeah.
So kind of spend and focus our efforts in keeping folks that we've already spent time on.
I think the Air Force does a good job at that. I think in my experience in the Army side of things, it was like you see people get promoted that don't necessarily deserve it, or at least from my opinion, you're like, okay, why did he get picked? And there's like the good old boy system or something. It was backwards. And then you'd see guys move up, and then they're abusing the power, and then you're still there, and you're like, nah.
That's how it was in the big
Right.
Army
Yeah,
too.
I don't want to do this anymore because everyone for the wrong reason is getting promoted,
Right.
and then the good guys get out. You know, the good folks are like, yeah, I'm done with this.
sure.
I'm going somewhere else. So
You know, it really does come down to like your wing or your unit, battalion, company, whatever that looks like, right? So
huge,
I mean, you're in your leadership and
morale.
you know, on active duty, there's a saying that's like, if you don't like your leadership now, just wait a few years, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
they'll change out.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah.
You know, and that's why, you know, with an active duty, especially, you know, don't judge your experience on your first base, right? Or your first couple of years. Because, and then take advantage of the resources and what you have around you. You know, if you get, you know, dropped into a new location that you've never been before, take advantage of that. And I don't think enough people do that. They just get bogged down with, you know, what their wants and their, you know, what they've had going on prior to when they became in the military. And they're like, well, I don't have it anymore. I was like, okay, well, that's an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
That's how it was for me. Like I was active duty. I was stationed in Colorado. Beautiful spot to get stationed with the Army. But my first guys I deployed with, oh man, leadership was amazing. Just incredible group of dudes, bunch of go-getters. And then when we got back, everyone transitioned. They either got out or they got picked up for recruiting or drill sergeant, you know, going to ranger school, all that stuff. Completely new set of leadership came in and it was horrible. It was so toxic. And that's where I ended up just getting out of the military because it got so bad and nobody wanted to be there. Just a bunch of studs got out. So that's interesting to hear that, you know, it's like you kind of have to embrace that suck for a little bit and try something because leadership is going to change. Right. It does. And no, I appreciate sharing that. We got there's some people, kids are around us that are contemplating going into the military. And I'm like, man, I say go Air Force all day, hands down. Even though it's Army, I'm like, go Air Force. So this is really cool to listen to. I'll want to pass this on to them.
Well, yeah. And they have all the same opportunities as pretty much every other branch, right? Like if you want to do special operations, Air Force has special operations, you know, not necessarily direct action units mostly, but like you got pararescue, you've got, CCTs, TACP, which you get into those roles and then you get attached to tier 1 units, right? So you get to work with all those guys. So it's a cool opportunity.
Yeah, joint operations commands, right? So you start to get to working with, you know, other departments too. So
yeah.
What's a typical enlistment for guard? Is it like 6 years minimum?
Yeah, 4 to 6 years.
4 to 6. Cool.
Yeah, depending on, you know, if you want to enlist for, now I'm not a recruiter by any means.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just going off of my experience, right? If you want to, or if you have if you have some schooling behind you, like maybe if you have an AA, or if you went and you did, you know, went to high school, but you did, you know, the program where you went to college instead, and you got a 2-year out of when you graduated from high school. So that education helps. And then if you wanted to sign up for 6 years, some of that will help when you graduate from basic training, what rank you start at, right? Instead of being an E1, you could be an E3 right out the gate. Yeah. So there's incentives there for rank, for, you know, qualifications, and then commitment too.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, in the Army Guard when I enlisted, if you had a 4-year college degree, you would enlist as a E4. You'd be a specialist.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Because I went to basic training, there's some guys there that were already specialists. So I was like, what in the world?
Good old Sham Shield, baby.
Sham Shield. That's it's the best rank.
That was best rank. E4 Mafia all day. Should we get into this, man?
Yeah. So yeah, that was great. Let's talk about some hunting, pheasant hunting and dogs.
So when we went to the Double Barrel Ranch, 3 weeks ago?
Wait. Let's back up.
Oh, okay, we're gonna back up.
Let's get your bio first. Let's let the folks know who we're talking to here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's get into how you got to right here.
So I oh man, it must have been about 7 years ago. Actually, I just came off of active duty, and I'd been in the Guard for a little bit at that point. And my brother, Jim, he actually got me. He said, "Hey, you know, he's got a couple Brittany's, right? And Brittany's are okay. They're not my favorite pointing dog, but they're okay, just because he owns them." So he actually got me out. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Double Barrel Ranch. You want to come out and you want to hunt?" I'm very outdoorsy, and I like anything that shoots something, right? Projectiles, whatever that looks like. So, and shotguns is one of my favorite weapons. So I said, "Great, let's. I'd love to go." And then that was the first time I saw the dynamic of between handler and a dog in the capacity where you are a team in the field, and you are pretty much stalking something, right? And so we go out there, releases the dogs. I see him running around everywhere, and then the dogs go on point. And I was like, oh, that's pretty intense. That's intense. That's pretty awesome. And he goes, and then my other brother Matt was there as well, and they're like, well, Suze, you're up first. And I go, oh, of course I am, right? I'm the youngest of the bunch, right? So I always get picked on. That's fine. I was like, I'll show them. So I'm like, great. So I go in there, I flush the bird up, I shoot the bird drops, dog goes in, retrieves it, brings it to my brother Jim, and I'm like, my jaw is on the floor at this point, because I was like, this was incredible just to see the dynamic of a team on this level, and I had to do it at that point. And I've always been involved in team sports ever since I was super little, and I love being part of a team. And if I could be part of a team, and I've always loved dogs, so if I could be part of a team with a dog, I don't think there's anything better than that, right? And in terms of hunting, so I said, well, this was fun, and this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life as long as I can.
You got bit right
I
there.
did.
Yeah,
I did. I couldn't help it. So
Awesome.
I went out and acquired. I did a lot of research too in breeds and what I was looking for. And I think it's always been important to kind of get a breed that matches your personality, right? True. So if you're someone who likes to sit on a couch a bunch but likes to get out there every now and again, probably an English pointer probably isn't for you. Or a German Shorthaired Pointer is probably not for you. Not to say that they can't. I'm just saying they like to range a lot, and they've got a lot of energy. Yeah. So among other things that I looked for, in a breed, I ended up landing on a Wirehaired Pointing Griffon. So my dog Harley is a guide dog. So just what I liked about the Wirehaired Pointing Griffons is the fact that they're such great dogs in the home, and they transition flawlessly to the field and in the hunting environment. And so I went out and I got on a list for a Wirehaired Pointing Griffon, and got the puppy back, and then I first thought, and I did the training myself. So, and I had a lot of great mentors to help facilitate some of that training.
Gotcha.
Right. So, so anybody out there that's like, I want to get into this, but I don't know anything about it. Well, you're looking at someone that was in the same boat, right? And now I'm a guide at a ranch. Yeah. So, you can do it. And it's definitely more than possible, but you have to remember the between the dog and the handler is going to need a lot more education and training than the actual dog is going to.
I'm living that right now.
So yeah.
Well,
you said you had a short hair, right?
Yep. I have oh gosh, he's almost 4 months old now. German Shorthaired Pointer. His name's Hank. And it's good. Actually, I ended up going and getting the Best Gun Dogs virtual training course to kind of help me along. And it's been awesome so far. Like just in like the first little bit, I've learned so much about like what I was doing wrong with my last dogs and why. And it made a lot of sense why they were doing the things that they were doing and I wasn't getting the results is because I was it wasn't the dog, it's me. And I think 90% of the time that's the case, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
But it's been cool.
Well, it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, right? Because you're like, and one of the things I'll say to folks that want to get into this is have patience. For one, as the handler, just because the dog doesn't do the things that you want it to right away, right? Give the dog time. Don't overpressure a dog. And it should always be fun for the dog. Mm-hmm. When it doesn't become fun for the dog, then the dog will start to will pull back. Sure. And we talked about, at the ranch, we talked about, blinking. Mm-hmm. And the dog knows a bird's there and the dog will give off cues as if it knows the bird is there, and as a handler you pick up on that, but then the dog will just run past it, and that's blinking a bird because it's afraid of making a mistake.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't want to get.
So is that like a training scar essentially? They're just getting okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that can be a sign of overpressure.
Okay.
God, is overpressure overtraining essentially?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean,
It's just
overtraining is. So here's the thing with. I've had this question asked to me is like, how much training is too much training? I was like, well, the more training you do, the more you open up the potential for increased mistakes, right, by the dog. And so if and there's actually some documents that I've and research journals that I've read in regards to actually dog psychologists and how much training is too much. And this isn't necessarily in the field environment, but they said that this can transcend in the field environment for training for a dog, is that, 1 to 2, maybe even 3 times a week for training is the right amount versus training 5, 6, 7 days a week.
interesting.
How long are those sessions usually going?
Depends on the age of the dog.
Okay,
depends on like the skill level of the dog. But usually you want to keep them short and concise.
Yeah.
Because, the more times you, like, let's say you plan out, 2, 3 birds in some launchers and you send your dog out to work them, now, and they do great, but now you set 4 or 5, 6 birds out there, and now the dog starts to maybe get a little complacent, and then makes mistakes. And we don't want to do that. We always want to end on a good note, right, when we're training. And so that's part of why you have to find a good balance between, not enough and too much.
Is it praise or treats? Does it depend on the dog for like a reward?
Yep.
Okay.
And it depends on what kind of training you want to do, like clicker training, to hear that click and then, receive a snack or something like that.
Okay.
I call them snacks in my house.
Snacks.
So my dogs know snacks. So.
Nice. Yeah, snacks. I like it.
That's interesting. So where I'm at with Hank right now, because we're doing it during feeding times, morning and evening. Mm-hmm. And we'll do, I don't know, probably 10 to 15 minutes. Right now we're just working on basic commands, here, kind of sit down, stay. I use wait. Okay. That's kind of my thing. And that was something that the guy that I had train my last dog, Maverick, was one of the commands that he used. And I really liked it because it's a hand signal too. Mm-hmm. So he sees my palm and he knows I got to stay here. But it's funny because while we're training, he's picking things up very quick. And it was cool to see like the light bulb start coming on for him where he's like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I do it, I get rewarded. But then in between those training sessions, when I'm trying to get him to come to me and to go outside, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll say here, and he just stares at me. He's like, I know you don't have anything for me, so maybe not. So it's an interesting, how's that transition go from food luring to, is that where like the lead line and the collar comes in and you start just having them run around with the lead line and then you reinforce that with the pull from the collar and then would you still get rewarded when they come to you? Mm-hmm. So then you're still kind of balancing the food luring with now you're introducing the collar. Yeah. And then eventually you'll introduce the e-collar with the training collar, I don't know what, there's like a leather training collar that pulls. Yeah. Or kind of like a chain collar.
Yep. Yeah. So personally, I don't train with snacks. I train with praise because just like in that same situation, you don't necessarily, dogs are smart. They're I don't smell snacks on you. So,
right. Yeah.
Right. It's so until we get some food in the equation, human, we're not going to comply.
Yeah.
So so that's why I personally, I don't train or praise with snacks. I just do it with praise. And not to get overexcited with the praise either, because that can create a little anxiety in a dog. So calm, gentle praise.
I'd be bad at that.
But at the end of the day, it's what do you want from your dog and what do you want your relationship to be like with your dog too. So, because it was mentioned to me at one point, it was there's something that's called variable reward. So, and variable reward in the training world is just simply petting your dog for them not doing anything.
Variable reward.
That could be potentially in some trainers' minds crossing a line.
Dang.
Right? And I'm like, my response was, okay, well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I will pet my dog when I want to pet my dog.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so, but that's me. That's how I approach it. But again, that's something to consider, out there.
Oh, cool. How long, so with Harley, what was that process like? Because you were brand new to it. So like how was that learning curve for you?
I read a lot of books. And then, like I said, I had, some really good mentors, my brother, Jim, and Kent Baxter from Baxter's Bird Dogs. He's phenomenal resource, and I consider him a friend of mine. And he gave me a lot of tips early on and what that looked like. And, in any book that I read, regarding bird dog training for pointers was, kind of always start with the basics and the obedience. And so just general commands and getting those down, like whoa, some type of recall command, whether that's here or come. I use both commands. I use here and come. If I want the dog to come in my general direction, not necessarily to me, I'll say come. But if I want the dog to come to me, then I will say here. And here doubles up as a heel command, but also come directly to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then whoa, obviously that's huge. And honestly, I think whoa would be great for not just bird dogs to learn, but I think any dog to learn, because a lot of folks have there's such a large urban dog population that dogs get off the leash. Last thing you want is a dog running into the street. So having the ability to yell whoa at your dog and your dog stop where it's at is huge. And that could go for not just, bird dogs, but any breed, if you can teach their dog to whoa on command.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then you'd mentioned sit. So I don't train my dogs to sit until they're trained up on birds and they know what they need to do. And so, because sit, you can get in, a lot of times when people train their dog to sit, they want, when guests come into the house, they want them to sit at the door, right? Well, that's, and usually that's a pressure situation for a dog. And so they feel pressured, they want to sit. Well, when they're confronting a bird in the field, it's the same. It's a pressure type of situation. And so you could potentially run into the problem where your dog is on point on a bird, but now that point looks like a sit scenario.
Gotcha. I did just look at this on that training course. It was like to teach stand now. So it's like you did these basic commands, and now with the pointer, like you want to make sure that they stand.
Right.
And so then it was going through like how to train that, and I was like, oh man, I'm so confused. I want my dog to be able to sit when I tell him to sit, but in that same scenario, you don't want them to sit when they go on point.
Right.
Interesting. There's so much to learn.
Yeah. But again, it just comes down to the training and being consistent with the training. And that's the number 2 thing, I think. So having patience as a handler when training, but 2, training consistently, right? So my dogs to this day don't get to eat their food or don't get a snack unless I give them the command, right? So they don't go outside unless I give them the command, a release command to go out. So basic obedience isn't just for the field, it's also for the home.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts.
That's cool.
For sure. Yeah, I can get that, because like my last dog was that we would, when it was time to eat. And it was weird because our dog before that, Remington, he was a black lab. And he was a better pet than he was a bird hunting dog, for sure. He loved chasing butterflies, I think, more than birds. And partly that's on me. I was young. I was like 18. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of going off what I knew and YouTube videos and whatnot. But was a free feeder. Like we could just, and he was good at it. Like he would just go there. He was so chill until he was, well, actually he was kind of a wild man until he was like 13 years old, but he would free feed. And then now going to our lab Maverick, he couldn't, he was like food obsessed. Yeah. And so we had to teach him to sit and wait and then give the command yes to eat. And so now we do that with, I won't let them free feed anymore. I've learned that that's not a good thing, because it can create that they don't know where their food's coming from. You're kind of creating that distance between you and the dog where they might try to think they're a little higher in the pecking order in the home and stuff like that. So, but we've been working that with Hank too. So now he's got it down, like he knows, but interesting. And I like that obedience relates not only to hunting to in the home, like you said, like that's so important because I want so badly, like, and that's my goal with him is I want him to be a great hunting dog. Right. That's up there. I love bird hunting, but I almost think more importantly to me is that he's better in the house. And because with our last dog Maverick, I don't know what happened, but he ended up getting aggression issues, and he ended up. I'm not sure what stemmed from it. I don't know if it was when we had to put Remington down, if that kind of was a psychological thing for him, and then he was kind of confused at where he was at in the pecking order in the house, and then, but eventually, and he grew up with our kids. Right. I mean, he was a puppy when our kids were young, and all the way until he was 4. But then he started getting aggressive. Yeah. And then he ended up biting one of our neighbors, or my daughter's friend, on the wrist, and that was kind of the last straw. Yeah. And so with that, I'm just like, with Hank, I just want him to be good in the house, be able to self-regulate himself. That's a big thing I'm learning right now too, is like tethering in the home, like making sure he's comfortable where just doing nothing. Yeah. And just being okay with regulating and being bored. Yeah. But that's such a weird transition because especially with a puppy, you're like, you just want to play with a puppy. Right. And you just want him to be like just a puppy. But now I'm realizing how much that affects them later on in life. Right. You know, they're absorbing everything when they're so young. And so reinforcing that, making sure he's very comfortable in his crate and it's a safe place for him. And that even when we're home, he can be in the crate. Right. When nobody can... If we don't have time, like if we're cooking dinner and the kids are doing stuff and nobody can watch him, he needs to be controlled in the crate. So we're not chasing him around. He's getting into things he shouldn't be and stuff like that. So that's a big adjustment. Yeah. It's just like, we feel so bad when we're sitting there or we have him tethered and he's just staring at us like, somebody come give me attention right now. Right. And you're like, can't. Right. Can't. You have to be okay. Yeah. Well, and you know, you'd mentioned the aggression and everything, and so some of that, dogs can be sensitive to their environment, and so it's a changes, especially. So now, whether that was, and I don't know if you had ever had an issue with like resource guarding because you know, especially for food or for toys or anything like that, and then when something else presents like a threat to that, then they can become aggressive. Yeah, it was only towards kids because we had a friend come over who runs a boarding and training facility here in town, and he came over and Maverick was laying on the on the floor in the living room and he was chewing on a bone and he's like, what is he going to do if I walk over there and try to take that from him? I was like, he should just let you have it. Right. And he's like, okay. So, and he's a complete stranger to the dog at this point, and he's in our home, and he walks up, takes it from him, grabs it. He just looks up at him and gives it back to him, and he's like, okay. He's like, what's he going to do if Paisley, our daughter, walks over there? I was like, I don't know. Yeah. And she took one step over, and he started getting grumbly. Right. And I'm like, weird. And so now we've had the kids doing a lot of his feeding Hank by hand, like making sure that they know that, or he knows that his food comes from them too, and that he has to like, okay, I gotta. Yeah. Like, they're up here and I'm down here. Oh yeah, there's a hierarchy, you know, and and so the one thing that I do, and I've always done this with my dogs, was, and not just my pointing dogs, but I will
make them eat out of the same bowl. And some people may not agree with that, but when I make them eat out of the same bowl or the same water dish or anything like that, then it becomes that resource guarding tends to dissipate, or that want tends to dissipate, and you don't really get those interactions. And then and I will. Actually, if they start, if they're starting to gnaw on a bone or anything like that, I'll sit next to them. I'll put my hand kind of on their paw, where the bone is or anything like that. Just a real calm environment. And then I'll just, I can go in, take the bone, right?
Yeah.
And then give it back to them. I'll go in, take the bone, give it back to them, take the bone, on repeat, just so they get used to, okay, well, I guess I don't get the bone.
Yeah.
It becomes not a big deal,
Right.
Versus, getting to the point where, now a kid's hand gets in there, and now we're at a very interesting situation that we don't want to have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a tough decision for us with Maverick, right? Because it was like we ended up having to put him down, and it was like it wasn't a good quality of life for him.
Right.
We didn't feel comfortable rehoming,
Right.
Because if that were to happen again, or even if they knew, like it's still just like did sit well with us.
Right.
And then it wasn't fair to our kids either that they should be kind of scared in their own home of a dog in their house. So yeah, that was real. But now with one of the challenges with Hank and him being a puppy is the kids wanting to our son Dallas just gets like fired up with the dog, and he's just like roughing around, and they're on the floor and running back and forth, and I'm like, I have to over and over be like, we got to be calm, like, because I don't want him to know that that's okay to be that rambunctious and rowdy in the house. Like we got to be okay, and it's very hard to relay that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you got two entities that are just excited to be around one another, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, don't be excited.
It's hard.
That's tough.
Yeah, but
that's when you just send them out in the field and you just let them run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Zoomies up.
Yeah.
Is Harley your first dog?
Yes.
Nice. So how old is
first pointing breed?
First pointing breed.
First pointing breed dog,
How old is she again?
She is she's about 3.5. Yeah.
So when did it all start clicking when you started training her? Like everything coming together? About like how old and when did you first notice it? Like when it's like, all right, this is. So
again, I read a lot of information on this, and I got a lot of input from mentors. And some books that I read, some folks were like, "Oh, don't start training your dog until they're 12 months old because the maturity wise, they can't handle it, right?" But from my experience with just having dogs my entire life, not necessarily pointing breeds, but I was the best training and they just caught on so much quicker was when they were puppies. And so I was like, well, let me just see what happens with the pointing breed, right? My own ignorance, but I was like, well, let me just, my own dog's a test subject at this point. And I started, training how I would train any other dog, right? As a puppy, just general obedience. That was like, whoa, recall, here, come, those types of things. Kept it real simple initially, but that general obedience was important, and Harley could take it, and she was. I've always said, so for pups, you go at the speed of your dog, right? You go at the speed of your puppy. If your dog is showing any type of signs of like regression in training or anything like that, then obviously take a step back. But Harley was always a go-getter. She was a little terrorist, right? She was just, she was rambunctious. She was, but so she could take it. She could tolerate it. She was, headstrong enough to put up with the training and the amount of no's I've said to her. I don't think I've said no more in my entire life than with bird dogs. It's just high energy, and that's fine. I love it. Yeah. But then she was also e-collar trained at 3 months.
Okay, nice.
So depends on, who you talk to is like, well, when they think you should start training the dog, and I it's a red flag for me when I hear from trainers, like, and they give absolutes, right? I don't think there should really be absolutes in the world of training a dog, right? I think that you should go based off of the breed and then the individual dog, because every individual dog has its own individual personality. So let's go at the pace of the dog. Not necessarily what I feel comfortable as the handler to go at.
Yeah, I like that.
Touching on the training topic, what are some of your favorite tools when you were training Harley? I know, like, I just ordered a Cato board and like a raised cot. Yep. And what are some of your favorite tools that when you're training a dog that you like to use?
My e-collar first and foremost, right? And then a lead. Is great to use, but that lead, if you haven't quite e-collar trained your dog yet, then utilizing that lead for whoa and getting the dog to slow down into a bird. Otherwise, with the e-collar and their e-collar trained, on a real low setting for a shock, right? Real low setting initially, that's where you want to start. And then when they go into the bird and they go on point and they feel like they want to take that step, and that bird's not running, right? Because it's in a trap. So you're like, there's no need for you to take that step, right? It's just that dog's getting a little greedy at that point and wants to get a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And so when the dog decides that it wants to take that step, you just low stim, shock them, and then it's just a gentle reminder of, hey, that's not what we're supposed to do here. We're supposed to just stand here on point, intense, look real cool, right? That's what I need to do. And so when and so the e-collar is awesome for that. Okay. And you get to the point where dogs are smart. They learn very quickly what an e-collar is. They call them e-collar wise, and so that's why I think it's super important to train as a puppy all that obedience stuff, because there's a term e-collar wise, meaning once you put that e-collar on, then the dog does everything it needs to, right?
Yeah,
to a very high standard.
Yeah.
But then the e-collar's off, and they're like, I can do whatever I want now.
Yeah,
I know.
Right?
That's how my German Shepherds are. They know when that e-collar comes out. Like, okay.
Yes.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's why, in training a dog, I mean, just because you feel like you are the dog, you're confident in the dog's abilities, but no matter what the dog, even the best dogs that I've seen will still make a mistake, right? But without having that e-collar or something, or some type of corrective action, correct the dog immediately, the dog's getting away with it. So e-collar, big tool I like to use. A long lead is important, especially if you're learning, like helping the dog to learn to cast a little bit. You kind of bring them out to the left, you bring them out to the right. You can implement hand signals into that training. So as I'm bringing the dog over to the right, I can point over to the right. And the dog looks at me, looks at my hand, and is like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to do that.
Wow.
Makes a connection, yeah.
And then you can take it and then bring it back over to the left side, point, dog looks at you, looks at the arm, is like, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And then eventually you get to the point where you can just point, right? Yeah. The other way to do that, help a dog, is what I did with Harley early on, is I would set traps over to the left and to the right. And I just have us go down the center, and she'd get sent over to the right. She'd kind of look at me, I would point to the right, and then she associated me pointing with the bird. Oh, okay. Right? So, and eventually it's, it gets to the point where regardless of whether there's an actual bird there or not, she just knows that that's a command now, and that's what she needs to do is go off to the left, go to the right, based off of, hand gestures. So that's where a long lead can be beneficial. It's got a lot of uses too. And then fetch training, right? Retrieving training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I'm blessed to have really great dogs that will retrieve naturally. And I don't have to do a whole lot of, now what I do have to, because they have as a Wirehaired Pointing Griffon, they do have that German line in them, so they kind of have a little bit of a harder mouth. And so they shouldn't have a hard mouth, right? You don't want a bird destroyed by the time it gets back to you.
Yeah.
Because there goes the meat, right?
How do you So how do you work around that? How do you train for the soft mouth?
So force fetch, there's a number of bullets within force fetch that, you know, gets you to the point where the dog picks up what it wants to pick up. It holds it, brings it back to you to hand, right? That's what that should look like. Within that, force fetch is something called hold, and usually that's introduced first with force fetch. You want the dog to feel comfortable. Okay, I got to put this in my mouth, right? Mm-hmm. So that's hold training. And so Harley had everything else down. She would retrieve it, bring it back just to hand, just fine, great. But she was missing that soft mouth component. And so now we just pick out one piece within force fetch, and that's hold training. So really it's just, you know, opening up my dog's mouth, putting, you know, something in there, whatever that looks like. It could be a paint roller, it could be a bumper, mm-hmm. a toy, whatever that looks like. And then you just put it in the dog's mouth. And for me, I just held Harley's mouth closed, but I said hold. And then I also did hand command too. Means hold. So out in the field, I mean, I don't have to say hold. I can do this, but every now and again, the dogs, we're all imperfect. I do have to, you know, remind them verbally sometimes. So as she's running back to me, I'll say hold, and then I'll see the chomping stop, and that goes away. And then now she's to the point where, unless she's been like 3 hours in the hunt and she starts to get real hungry,
that's funny.
Then I might see the hard mouth come back,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
And I don't particularly falter for that. And then usually at that point, we're kind of either done with the hunt or I'm able to give her something, mm-hmm. But not immediately after she's chomping a bird, because then I'd be rewarding her for chomping a bird.
Sure.
And we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then eventually, you know, you get to the point where you just ask them to hold it for a couple seconds, right? And then you give a release command so they can, you know, if they know of a release command. Mm-hmm. If not, you just take it out of their mouth. And then eventually get to the point where you do a release command. You say out, give. I say aus, which is the German word for out. Mm-hmm. And then she drops it into my hand, and then we do that on repeat. You can do a training session anywhere 10, 15 minutes. But if a dog shows signs of boredom, you want to stop.
Yeah,
you're
sure.
done. And then that's pretty much about with hold training.
Okay.
So
that's interesting. I just randomly was trying to burn some energy on Hank, and I was just like throwing one of his toys for him through the house, mm-hmm. and he is instinctively bringing it back to me. Which
mm-hmm.
I was like,
mm-hmm.
oh, sweet. Now what do I do?
Right, yeah.
I was like, okay, he's doing this on his own. No.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want him to like, because he won't do it all the time. Sometimes I'll throw it. He'll go over like, I don't want that. And then run away. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to reinforce it at this point. I want him to do it and be having fun doing it, right? Is that kind of the thing? But that was cool. That was a cool little light bulb that popped on. I was like, oh.
Yeah, but you made a great point, because as the handler, you have to be prepared for various outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Within that. So
I was not prepared. I was like, oh, he's bringing it back every time.
So, yeah. So at that point, you know, and the dog doesn't necessarily, the dog can learn on the fly too. So the dog doesn't necessarily have to know exactly what out or that command is. Like, it will learn what that command is by the action that it's doing. So when it comes back to you, you know, and then to hand, you can say hand, and then you can say out. I will say hand just as a reminder for the dog early on to deliver it to my hand. And then I can say aus, but usually at that point you can get rid of aus, because, you know, hand and now becomes the command of like bringing it to my hand.
Yeah. Is that important? So like so say now it's my kids are out there, he's older and they're playing fetch with him. Mm-hmm. That's important to reinforce that then too, correct?
Right.
So it's consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're not doing something different.
Right.
Yeah, smart. It makes sense.
So not only am I training the dog, I'm training my children and myself at the same time.
And me. And Uncle John.
And John. Yeah.
You train me.
You know, and I did had some, Harley had a litter here. And that's where I got Emmy from, right?
Emmy.
My little Emmy pup.
Emmy.
So she just had, she's, I don't know, I think 4 months postpartum now. But when the pups were going to their forever homes, it was important for me to mention, you know, to the clients that they it's important for consistency in the training, but what that looks like in your home and making sure that everybody's on the same page with that, and they can't get away with, certain things, because now, you might get into variable reward, but variable reward too much, right?
Yeah.
So for that family dynamic, it's important. I can't really speak to that because it's like me and my dogs. So, but when my nieces and nephews, I have tons of nieces and nephews. And so, when they get around them and it's trying to help them remind of how to act around dogs and around puppies and, and to look for cues with, within dogs. And, I call it puppy etiquette, right?
Yeah.
For little humans around puppies.
Sure.
And what that should look like. So,
and if people they have dogs, they're like 2-3 years old. I mean, it's never too late, right? They can start picking it up and get that dog to be a bird dog.
It can. Yep. I've seen some dogs, 4, 5, 6 years old, come out. Never really. I mean, they might have been on bird, but they never had formal training.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were on hikes or something, and they just stumbled across birds, and then. So it's never. I don't think it's too late. I think it just comes down to the dog and what the dog is willing to do and wants to learn. So the dog not only may have the instincts, but the dog kind of also wants to learn and be trained. But if the dog doesn't show interest in it, then I think you can always continue to still train that dog to do what you want. But the instincts, I think that dog would definitely require forced fetch training at that point, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And not every dog needs forced fetch training, but some do, and it can be done, obviously without harm to the dog. I think that some people look at forced fetch training and they're like, "Oh, that's cruel," and it's really not. You're just applying a gentle pressure to the dog in order to get the dog to do what you want it to do, right? And that's really just teaching the dog to be cool, calm, controlled, and to be able to focus that dog into what you want it to do, regardless of the outside factors that are maybe pulling that dog's attention away from what what you want it to do, what it needs to do.
Is it going to be the same thing with pheasant hunting as if I have a dog that's trained on pheasant hunting? Is it going to be like doing that in the woods where I'm going for grouse? Like we'll do the same thing. I don't have to train it for different birds.
Yep, it should do the same thing.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll fast forward a little bit. So now Harley's all, trained up. And so what got you into wanting to guide?
I've always been a people person, right? So, and I really like seeing other people succeed. And I like, I've trained people to do things, my entire military career, and so when I got clients that come out, they may have picked up a shotgun before, maybe not, that's fine. But being able to teach them a couple things about it, and just to kind of promote upland hunting in general. I'm passionate about it, and I'd like to share what I'm passionate about with other people. And when clients come out for a guided hunt, they have a general idea of what they're getting into, right? Yeah. And so when I get the opportunity to get my clients out there and then go through the safety brief with them, what that looks like, and then Harley goes on her first bird point, I go up, flush the bird, or they do, depending on the level of experience and how comfortable they feel doing that. The bird flies up, they get that bird, it drops, see Harley come back with the bird, and they're like, that was great. And it kind of reminds me originally of why I got into doing this.
Sure.
And I love seeing, it's almost like looking in a mirror of me. And that's what I look like I love seeing that. And I love seeing it on repeat. That's why I keep guiding. Yeah. Right. And clients are really grateful. They love seeing the dog work. And the amount of times I've heard from a guided hunt, like they're just out there to watch the dog. Yeah. And it's incredible to watch the dog do what it does. So, and that really warms my heart that they're passionate about, my dog and what it's able to do. Yeah. And then just being able to educate on, upland hunting, birds, conservation practices, how the dog works, why, what it's looking for or scenting and the scenting conditions. And just the start to finish from when a dog, comes into the scent cone to when it brings the bird back.
Yeah, we talked about that when we were on our hunt, because that's a big nuance for us. We learned a lot, and we'll have you talk about that. And it's the scenting part of it and how a dog finds birds, and like, I think most people know dogs' olfactory is pretty insane.
Oh yeah.
Like, from our experience working with canines in the law enforcement realm, I mean, again, same concept. You see that dog working, and you're like, man, that is cool.
Yeah.
It's just cool to see the training come through and watch that dog do exactly what it's supposed to do and love doing it.
Yes.
And so when it comes to how dogs find birds, let's get into the nuances of that a little bit, because we talked about, wind conditions, weather conditions, and so all that really plays into a factor, right? So what does that look like when the dog is going to find a bird?
So the easiest, as far as conditions go, the easiest way for me to put what good conditions look like versus what bad conditions look like, if you could think of the extremes on both sides of weather, those are bad conditions, right? So really dry, really cold, really dry, really hot, right? Bad conditions. We want somewhat of a like a rain would be great. Cool weather, some wind, but not a lot of wind. A ton of wind tends to create swirling winds and ribbons of wind, which then can muddy and break up the scent of the bird a little bit too much. So now the dog's having a little bit of trouble trying to actually focus in and find that bird. So that's probably the easiest way I can put conditions wise, is just any of the extremes for weather is considered bad.
Okay.
But having some of that, like that morning dew, is really great, and because it kind of keeps the scent molecules down on the ground rather than a really hot, dry day where the scent just goes straight up in the air. And if that scent cone is straight up in the air, then that dog could be walking around that bird and wouldn't be able to scent it.
Sure.
And you explained what that cone looks like, and that was cool. Explain what that, like what a dog, or if you could see it with your own eye, if you could visualize it, what that scent cone really looks like.
So you can take like a flame of some kind, right? So just a general flame that could be from a candle or from a fireplace, whatever that looks like. But a flame that kind of comes up into a point at the top, right? And then within that flame, I mean, there's a lot of heat going on within that flame, right? And then there's heat above it. And then the further you get away from that flame, the less hot it kind of gets, right? So you can think of that heat as scent, right? So a lot of scent concentrated at the bird, and then as we get further away from it, the scent goes away. Now let's add wind to the situation, right? So you can put a fan on that flame, and that flame kind of tilts over. And as that flame tilts over and that heat starts to drag and be pushed out, now that scent cone is coming from just going straight up. Now it's tilted over, and now it's being able to be spread out there, right, in a stream. And that scent stream is extremely beneficial for the dog to pick up, especially when it's running around 90 miles an hour, right? It gets a chance to get through that scent cone and pick up that scent, and then you see them swing around real intently and go on point. And it's incredible to see when they do swing around like that and go on point.
Now, when you said that they can smell the breath of the bird, that was insane to me.
Yeah. What are the main things that birds are giving scent off with? So,
there's a few different ways. So one of them is what you said, the respirations, right? So they're scenting the bird's breath.
That's so crazy.
It is. It's and then the other way would be like a dandruff from the bird, the feathers, the molecules that sit in that, and then there's a preen gland that's just underneath the tail feathers that gives off scent. There's an oil that's emitted, and then the bird will use that, get its claws back there, use that kind of coat its feathers to help try to make it a little bit waterproof. But that also has bacteria in it. And what the dog's picking up is is volatile organic compounds. And that is basically you can think of it as bacterial waste. So the waste that's provided from the bacteria, that's what the dog's picking up.
Interesting.
That is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, that is wild. And then, like you said, when you see, again, going back to watching them work, and then you see that dog hit that, and like, boom, there it is. And then they like, bingo to work. I think, personally, like a pointing dog, like a Griffon or a wire-haired pointer or a GSP, when they lock up, it's so pretty.
Oh yeah.
And of course, like now that I have one, my Instagram feed is just like all GSPs.
Yeah.
And so like I'll just like be doom scrolling, and it's just like all dogs just locked up and just holding. And man, that's so pretty. I love that. I love that part. What would you say? So we'll kind of tie this into hunting birds here in, the Pacific Northwest, specifically like Idaho, Eastern Washington. What's your favorite bird to chase up here?
I like the Huns, the Hungarian partridge.
Okay.
So, and a fun fact with the Huns is that here in the United States, we call them Hungarian partridges. And it's just a nickname here in the United States. Oh. And the reason for the nickname is because that's where they were heavily imported, was Hungary. Oh. So it's a European, East Asian bird. And so to everywhere else, it's the origin name is a gray partridge. But we call them Hungarian partridges, Huns for short. But then again, that's just a nickname here in the United States. But they're my favorite bird. They're coveys. They're super flighties, really fast. Just the dog work it takes for the Huns, and even chuckers sometimes, but Huns in particular, it's impressive. It's fascinating, and they're hard to hit.
Okay.
So
how big are they?
So they're probably they're in between the size of like a quail and a chucker.
Okay, so they're actually smaller, fairly small.
Yep.
Because I guess every time I think of a partridge, I think of like a ruffed grouse, which John and I grew up hunting in the Midwest a lot, and those are, that's size reference. That's what I'm always thinking of. And so they would be smaller than that even. Oh, interesting. And smaller than a chucker, because chuckers are pretty small too, yeah?
I don't know. I think they're pretty...
Their size of
I
grouse,
think they're pretty
aren't they?
big, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're. I think they can get pretty big. I mean, they'll fill up your hand pretty easily.
Would you say it's? I guess there's a few different nuances, right? Because like when you're hunting, probably when you're hunting chuckers or pheasants or the Hungarian partridge, it's more like flat, correct? Like more open country.
Yeah. Well, it kind of depends. So as our agricultural community and the farming becomes more efficient, it doesn't leave a whole lot of CRP. So
can you explain what CRP is for the folks that don't?
Yeah, it's the Conservation Reserve Program. And so that's headed up by the U.S. government, and that is administered under the administration of the USDA. And so it's a program where the government will give farmers some money in order to help conserve spots where it can help create habitat, right? So trees, tall grass, those types of things. And that is just to help the population, the surrounding population, but also soil deterioration and runoffs and those types of things that will help protect against that. So the CRP land is really great, and you can potentially, that's where you want to try and look for some birds, is in that CRP, but for cover wise. But when they feed, they'll try to go out into those farmlands. But like I said, as the farming becomes more efficient, there's not as much grain on the ground because of the technology that we have now. You start to maybe see a little bit less populations in the farmlands from what I've seen. I think you're going to find your best coveys of Huns probably on the borders of farmlands, but into some areas where there's like sagebrush, so there's still some cover for them. And obviously you need a water source, but you need some type of food source. But you have water, you're typically going to find some small, I call them microgreens on the ground for birds.
Okay. Yeah, because like my experience like hunting rough grouse, right? It's thick and it's just wooded, ugly, thick stuff. And
It scares me every time.
oh my gosh. Every time a grouse gets up, man, even when I'm looking at it,
I know.
and I'm like, oh, there it is. Oh man, it's loud. That hunting style's a little different, right? Because are you just casting your dog out into the thick of the wood, like you just walk a trail, and then that's what we're used to, is just like walking a 4-wheeler trail or whatever, and then just casting your dog out into the woods, and then hoping you get a shot at that bird.
Yeah, try to find a water source. If you can find a nearby creek or something like that, and then you can find a road that's adjacent to it, just walk the road and then have your dog hunt, because a lot of times they'll like to come up to where the road is and pick some pebbles up and then and feed and everything. So
because they need that gravel to digest, right? They got to pick the gravel so they can put it in the gizzard and crunch it all up. That was fascinating when I learned that as a kid. I was like, what?
Yeah, they're getting rocks.
Why are they eating rocks? I remember my grandpa told me that. Yeah, it's interesting. There's different hunting styles and stuff. And when it comes to the dogs, you're pretty much, that's on you to put them where they need to be, kind of thing. Or they do they start picking up
they do.
where they're finding them, and then they'll start to hunt those areas on their own?
Yep. So there'll be like roost piles and things like that, and that's a good indicator of, like, obviously there's presence of a upland bird in the area. And then usually you can kind of narrow in what the upland bird is based off of the terrain that you're in, or you can have a good idea anyway. Basically the dog will start to pick up on different scent, whether it's from roost piles, whether it's from scent on the ground, depending on the scenting conditions at the time. And then we'll go to work, and it's just fascinating to see.
Cool. You had there's a program in the area that you were pitching to me that I was very interested in.
Yes.
I want to get into that because I don't know how well known that is.
Yeah, so it's NASRA, which is the National Shoot to Retrieve Association. I'm a big fan into it. I got into it a couple years ago, and it's and NASRA is an organization where they, a group of people decided, well, we don't want to stop hunting just because the hunting season's over. We want to continue to hunt. Well, how do we do that? Well, let's put hunting-based competitions together and create an organization, and that's where NASRA came about. It was designed to prolong the hunting season so that people could still be on birds, and the dogs could still be on birds even after the hunting season. So if you do get into NASRA, there's a lot of clubs that do trials all year round. Some regions, like for the Northwest anyway, and that includes British Columbia, Alaska, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. That's the Northwest region. What that looks like for our season is usually starts in about March, goes to May, and then we'll have some spring trials too. But what we don't like to do is do spring trials when wild bird hunting is happening, right? Yep. Because we also love to wild bird hunt.
Right.
So and what that competition kind of looks like, right, is it's a field trial. There's 16 braces. Usually there's 2 fields of this, okay? So there's 16 braces in that day, and each brace is 30 minutes long. And it's you and another hunter and both of your dogs in the same 20 to 30 acre field. And there's 2 judges, typically on 4-wheelers, and 5 birds get put out there in kind of like a dice pattern by bird planner. And you have 30 minutes, and it's a race to the birds, right? And you have some competitions are beat your brace mate. Others are it just comes down to the score at the end, and people are like, "Well, score? What does that mean?" And I was like, "Well, you're getting judged, by the way." so you're getting judged based off of the dog's finds, the dog's ability to retrieve, backing, obedience, and ground coverage.
Cool.
So you get a scorecard at the end of your brace. So, I mean, you could find more birds, but if your dog work isn't real great,
sure,
you could still get beat.
Oh,
right?
Man, that's cool.
It all comes down to the score at the end of the day.
I like that.
Competition bird hunting.
Yeah,
it is. It's incredibly awesome. And so when and it's really awesome that they came up with having amateur having an amateur division as well.
Oh, cool.
So
So there's brackets.
Yeah, so we've got an open division. Yeah.
I was getting worried. I'm going to get, if I do that, I'm going to get whopped.
Well, you get an open division, you have an amateur division, and so you've never done NASRA before. You come in and then you're entered into the amateur division. Then you have to get so many points in order to get to the open division, and you can become an amateur champion. Harley's an amateur champion. We're working on our open champion right now, and you get points. And actually, Harley and we ended up taking third at regionals this year, which was awesome.
That's incredible.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, 38 dogs qualified for regionals, and we ended up taking third. So that was pretty
amazing. So where can people find that information? How do you get signed up for that?
Yeah, NASRA.org. So you can go online to NASRA.org, and then you can go to, there's a spot where it says memberships, and then you can sign up there for the membership. There's a spot that says regions, so you can go to your region and you can see where your region is, because region doesn't necessarily mean a state. It could be multiple states, right? And so you might fall into this region. Like there's a SoCal, North Cal region. So it's not just California. It's kind of split because of, you want people to be able to get an opportunity to travel and get there, right? So if you have, and the more trials you attend, the more opportunities you have to score points for your dog and then to champion them out. And it's just cool. Either way, whether you champion, you score, anything like that, it's still great to get your dog out there on birds.
Oh, yeah. It's a great way to meet people, network, and just have fun. It sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah.
And right now, NASRA's offering a no membership fee for this year to go out there and try it out. Cool. The trials, they still cost. Each trial still costs. It could be anywhere between $50, $70 depending on the bird that's used, whether it's a quail or a chucker, and so. So it does cost a little bit of money for you to do that trial, but it's not just about it. It is about running the dog and getting them out there, but you slowly start to see that it's more than that, and it's also about the community within NASRA. And you start to get around like-minded people, and now you can't stop talking about dogs and dog training. And then you get to meet a lot of really great people, and there's dog trainers that compete in NASRA, and they're really great about offering, tips and tricks and those types of things. Cool. And if you ever do decide to do NASRA, there's a mentorship program. So we, when you go out for your first hunt, we can have somebody that's seasoned kind of walk with you in your brace to help you to what things to consider, do's and don'ts, because your dog has to be able to be steady to flush. Your pointing dog has to be able to be steady to flush and deliver to hand or within one step. So, but if let's say there's a big, sagebrush in your way, and your dog necessarily can't see you because you're supposed to have a direct line back to you, always ask the judge, hey, I'd like to step out behind the sagebrush. And then it gives you, yep, you can do that. And then you can, but typically you got to stay where you're at. And it's got to be delivered to hand.
Man, it gives me very rodeo vibes, because it feels like you pay an entry fee and then there's a trial, and it's very cool. I kind of dig that. Now, so with that that fee, is that go into a pot? Is it a part of it? Do you get any of that back if you win, or?
So you'll get little plaques if you win. You get a wooden plaque too that you can put all your little metal engraved plaques on. But that fee generally goes back into that club, bird dog club, to continue to do NASRA.
Sure, help cover
events.
The costs of things and the birds. Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Yeah.
What would you say to people that are coming out here or maybe moving out here, as far as like bird hunting in this area? What would you say? Is this like between North Idaho?
Terrible hunting.
Yeah,
you don't want to come here.
I know. And I do a little bit of it, but I love bird hunting, but now I'm just starting to get back into it a little bit more, especially now that I got a dog again that I really want to do well with.
Yeah.
I think if you're up in this area, like in the North Idaho area, you're going to find a lot more grouse for sure.
Yep.
But then, just across the border, Eastern Washington, it kind of opens up the door a little bit more to some better upland hunting.
Yep.
So what kind of birds can people expect to find out there?
Yeah, so, Washington, find grouse. You'll find turkeys, upland bird. You'll find quail, pheasant, Huns, chucker. Those are the big ones. And depends on the type of terrain is where you're going to find them. So what I would recommend is the best thing that you can do in order to find spots is just get out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So go out to the public lands, scout the areas. Wildlife fishing game management for Washington, they have a site where they have a reserve to hunt or hunt by reservation only, or there's feel free to hunt sites. And on their website, they have a map that you can see each the land plots and how to contact the owner if it's like a hunt by written permission and those types of things. And then they just have a relationship with the landowners.
Cool. Yeah, they run a block management system like that in Montana too, which is super nice. I mean, which a lot of people don't understand. And when I was hunting Montana, I didn't until I really looked into it. And you find the plat, and you're like, okay, is it written permission? Do I have to reach out to them? Or some of them are just a sign in. You show up to the property, you sign your name in, and then you get to hunt the property, which is, I think, a great program. I really, especially with limited public lands, especially for upland hunting, I feel like you get into those ag areas and it's all private, and there's not a lot of places to hunt. So it's great that people are doing that.
Yeah.
I had a question.
I was thinking about is Moscow and Lewiston good? Is there good upland down there?
Yes.
Okay.
I think anywhere where you can find farmland, because it's a food source, right,
Yeah.
for birds. So any time where you can find farmland in some type of spring, water source, anything like that, and some CRP especially, you should have pretty good luck.
That'd be a pretty spot. I like it down there.
I know Washington does it and Idaho does it as well. We have the Fish and Game operates release programs for pheasants. And you can get on the Washington Fish and Game website and find those locations where they release birds weekly. Same in Idaho. I've hunted those a couple times, and it's fun. If you get there at the right time.
Oh, yes.
Because I know, and they say they do it randomly when they release birds, and I've looked at the numbers, and in Idaho, the one that I've been to, they're releasing like 50 birds out there, and then I've gone and hunted it, and they're like 50 birds a week, and then I'll go out there and like, I found one.
Right.
But I think some people might have an in and no, but again, they're released birds, so they're probably not getting out super far from where they dropped them. And if you're out there the day they do it, day after they do it, you're probably gonna hammer them pretty good. But it's a cool program because especially in the Panhandle area, there's a couple locations where they do that because there's just not a lot of wild pheasants in the Panhandle area of Idaho unless you go south to some more of that ag field and flatter country. But so it's a cool opportunity if you're up this way and you want to try and find some pheasants and don't want to have to drive, forever. You're just fair warned, you might be fighting crowds.
Yes.
What about the double barrel ranch though? So do you tell us a little bit about the double barrel?
Yeah, Double Barrel Ranch is where I guide.
Yeah.
So I'm partial to it. It's a great team of folks out there. A lot of really great guides, great dogs. Joe, the Birdman, he's incredible. If you haven't met him, he's somebody that if you met, you know him, right, at that point, because he's hard to forget because he's just a really great person. And then the Tom, our bird planner, I'm just shout outs at this point because they're really great people. And it's a really great community. The ranch has got about 3,000 acres. And there's about, depending on the time of the season, some of our hunts and our locations kind of get hammered with some snow, so then our cover kind of goes away a little bit. But we have several hunt sites, and we're looking at probably 12, 13 hunts, which is fairly large. And then when the winter hits, where some of our typical hunt sites go away, we have a couple other spots that provide really great cover. It's usually 5-minute drive away. But again, it's you go where you've got the cover, right, for the birds. So, and you buy a hunt package and what that looks like, and you can be guided or it can be non-guided. So if you don't have a dog and you're like, well, I'd like to shoot some pheasants, I'd like to see a dog work. Well, we've got guided hunts. We've got great guides. So, and then you, at that point, you just buy a hunt package, and it could be 5 pheasants or 5 red legs. And red leg is a partridge. It's a lot of people think it's a chucker, but it's actually a French or Spanish red leg. Looks like it, but there's definitely some variations. And actually, if you want to go on Double Barrel Ranch and go on their social media, Joe does a really good video where he talks about the difference between the red legs and the chucker.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we'll drop the link to the Double Barrel Ranch in the show notes on this, so you guys can find that if you're in the area, Coeur d'Alene, North Idaho, or Eastern Washington, and you want to go shoot some birds and have a blast, and you don't want to go like grind it out on public land and try and find spots, and you just want to go shoot some birds, it is awesome. We had a blast, and we made a video. We'll be dropping that here soon of our experience out there, and it's so much fun. I mean, especially people that are just getting into upland hunting or like don't know much about it, the resources there and the guides such as yourself are so knowledgeable, and it's just a great place. I've been there a couple times now and just always had a good time.
Yeah. And it's, the ranch is great for a variety of folks too, right? So from somebody who has no dogs to somebody who has very seasoned dogs, and they want to go out there. Maybe you want to tune up your dog before the season hits. Maybe you have a puppy and you want to get them on some birds that, we may hold a little bit better, right? Than a wild bird. Maybe you don't have a dog, but you want to see dogs work. Maybe you want to get a dog, but you don't know what kind of dog yet. And maybe, talking to Joe and maybe fitting you with a guide that's got the dog that you're interested in, and actually seeing it work, and being able to get some tips from the guide too. On that dog and the breed. A lot of reasons to come out to a hunting preserve and to shoot some birds, if it's not just to have a good time.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know. I feel like sometimes people scoff at game farms or hunting preserves and stuff like that. I'm like, it's not real. But I don't believe that. I think you can have so much fun. It's in a controlled environment where you can ask questions and learn so much that I think it's just great. And it's reasonable. I mean, you look at what you might pay to go try and find some wild birds and drive around, fuel mileage and gas, and just like maybe getting one out of all that, or having a guide, watching a dog that's trained and does well, and then you guys offer with your guided package with a guide that you'll clean the birds, and it's just a great time. Especially and then I think it was great because I brought my son Dallas along with, and especially if you're trying to get kids involved, sure, it's fun to go hunt it out on public land, and there'd be a lot of boredom and maybe get one or two, or you can show them what it could be really like when, and just have fun and get that spark going for upland hunting, because especially, I just don't think it's that popular. It's a niche, right? Like people, you find that in every hunting aspect. Some people, they're deer hunters, but they love mule deer, me. Or, you got diehard elk hunters, and then you get into the upland world and there's it's a whole different, it's just like duck hunting, right? Like it's a whole rabbit hole of things to do, but it's just what you like. And I love that you can get some exercise in, see some beautiful country and watch dogs work. And that's what I love about upland hunting. But
there's the number one reason, that I get, that I ask, I say, do you have a dog? My clients at the ranch, do you have a dog? No. Would you consider, starting to, get your own dog, do the training, et cetera? And they're like, no, I just don't have the time. The time factor is the number one reason I get for not. And it's true though, because it does take a lot of time. It's a lifestyle. To have upland dogs, or even for waterfowl. So.
Oh yeah.
But being able to have kids come out is great. Not only kids, but women. I'd love to see more women
talk
out
about
in
that.
in the field too. So, in fact, I had a client the other day that was, after the hunt was like, hey, can I, bring my wife out, if I come out tomorrow? And I'm like, please do.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more women out here, and, with shotguns in their hands and killing birds, right, over my dog, and being able to appreciate my dog too. So it's not, we don't see too many women in the upland world. I wish we saw more of it, but that's kind of like that reality. And so that's also something that Double Barrel Ranch would be great at, or a game preserve, and that's kind of helping to recruit people into upland world. And they specifically asked for me because it's they wanted a female to speak with a female in regards to training and hunting in that capacity. And there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
Women could be more understanding if speaking to another woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You guys.
I understand that. I get that. My wife says the same thing about men too, because she'll tell me something and she'll give me advice on something. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. That's good. And then a week later, John will give me the same advice, and I'll go back and be like, you know what John said?
Oh my gosh,
and she's like,
same thing.
I just told you that.
Yeah.
So I get that. I get that, and I'm sure my wife would understand that as well. And
that's so funny.
And it's the same, right? Like I'll have given her advice on something, and then she'll come back and get advice from another gal, and I'm like, that's what I told. But it's different when it's one coming from a different person, right?
Yes.
But especially when it comes to hunting, because I think in that realm, it's such a male-dominated industry that it can be very intimidating to, get that kind of advice or something from somebody that you don't know that's a guy.
Yeah.
And having you out there to be able to, bridge that gap is amazing. And it's so cool because, you just don't see that. You don't see a lot of female guides in any aspects of the hunting industry for that matter. So it's cool. I commend you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you. I just, and it's another thing that I'm passionate about is, kind of also women entering into a male-dominated sport and getting out there, and and I'd like to see more women come out at the ranch and hunt. And we do have some women groups from like Pheasants Forever, et cetera, come out and hunt, but I need more of it. We really do need more of it.
Are there, speaking of Pheasants Forever, are there pretty good chapters for Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever out here?
There are. Yep.
They're pretty active and and
they
stuff.
sure
Cool.
are, yeah.
We used to go a lot of the Pheasants Forever banquets back in Minnesota. It was a good time. I never won anything. My dad won a lot of stuff. John and I are the same way. We could put all of our raffle tickets into one and still not get drawn. But they're a great. Those banquets are great because they promotes conservation, and they talk about everything that's going on in the area and what they're doing, and it's a great way to be a part of that, even if you're spouses and you're interested to go to those banquets to meet other spouses and connect, because you could get into it that way for sure.
Yeah.
But
I made that pheasant Florentine. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I wanted to touch on that briefly, but like cooking pheasants, and because it can be very dry and a little gamey, and it takes a certain touch. But we tried this the pheasant Florentine recipe that you suggested. It was bombastic.
Yeah, anybody who has never had pheasant before, I recommend the pheasant Florentine, just because if you don't cook it right the first time, it can be off-putting, and people they're like, oh, I don't want that anymore, right? So the pheasant Florentine, it's a little bit gamier, really lean. So anytime you can introduce some type of fat, whether that's through like bacon, some type of oil, or cream sauce, frying it. So the pheasant Florentine not only has a cream sauce, but you're adding, frying it, and you're pounding it out too. So once you pound out the pheasant breast, it also breaks up some of those tissues too and makes it softer. Yeah. And then frying it, obviously, it adds moisture. And then you're adding a cream sauce, spinach cream sauce on top of that. I mean,
It's delicious.
get out of here.
I know. I think wild game in general gets a bad rap a lot of times, and it's so much of it is just the preparation and how you how you do it. But
And you can brine it too. So you can do a salt sugar brine if you want, or you can just do buttermilk brine. So you can add that on top of it if you want.
Cool.
Like Hungarian partridge, it's a darker meat. And I will use I'll make Hun fried chicken out of that. So that's like a breakfast, meal. So again, you're adding gravy to that too. So
so good. Well,
Man,
we're pushing that hour 30 mark, and I think we're gonna wrap it up. But Suzanne, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and letting us be a part of this conversation with you. It was really
thanks for
good.
having me.
Where can the audience find you at?
Yeah.
Do you got Instagram or anything?
I do, but I don't Instagram as much as I should probably.
Copy that.
But
Yeah, we'll like I said, we'll put the in the show notes.
Harley the bird dog though.
Harley the bird dog.
Harley the
Yeah,
bird
follow
dog.
Harley
Cool.
the bird dog.
All right, sick.
We'll put that one on there.
I dig that. Heck yeah.
But yeah, so if you guys are interested, check out the Double Barrel Ranch. It's local. It's an awesome establishment. Good people. But I'm glad we got to talk about some upland hunting because I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. So
Yeah, I appreciate you, Suzanne. This was awesome.
Yeah,
I
thanks for
learned
allowing
a
me
ton.
to talk about it.
Absolutely.
and thank you for your service
Yeah, thank you
and
for
your
yours.
continued service.
Yeah, you got it. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
But sweet. Well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Harley the Bird Dog, and any questions about moving out here to North Idaho, whether that's now or 12 months out, reach out to us. We got social media, all that.
Yeah.
So
Well, thanks for listening, and see you guys on the next one.
next ridge, baby.
Yeah, the next one. All right. Hey, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. I know we did. It was great to have Suzanne on. In the show notes below, I'll have all the resources that we talked about, and so you can find them there.
And if you got any questions about making the move here to North Idaho, please reach out to us via email, text, or phone call. Yeah. Appreciate you guys joining in.
We'll see you on the next ridge.